Every time Luke stepped on the fourth stair of his new home, he heard a whisper, "Don't he?" Chalked it up to the house settling at first, or maybe the pipes. But it always happened when he stepped on that same stair. The sound was so subtle most people would have probably just written it off as their imagination, but Luke couldn't ignore it, not after hearing it for weeks. It was an old Victorian home, one of those with the long, sweeping staircases in the center, surrounded by intricate woodwork and floral wallpaper. It had been built in 1896 and remained mostly unchanged since then. There were 5 flights of stairs leading to the top floor, and every time he climbed them, his foot would hit the 4th step at the same precise moment. Right around midday, he'd hear the word "don't," and then silence. His landlord said the previous tenant had gone mad, obsessed over the stair, but now that he thought about it, he wasn't sure if he believed her story. She had a wild look in her eyes, pale skin and fingernails that looked like they hadn't seen sunlight in years. After a month, he could take it no longer. One day, while everyone at work was out for lunch, Luke decided to stay behind and figure out what was making the noise. But he soon discovered there was nothing to find. The step didn't look damaged. In fact, it looked brand new, as if it had been recently When he got back from work that evening, he continued listening. It made him crazy. Don't. Every time he stepped on the 4th stair, he heard it. He tried explaining it to his friends over dinner. What, like the step itself is haunted? They all laughed, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. He stood up suddenly, startling them. "I'm going home." As he stepped onto the porch, he noticed a faint trail of sawdust leading up the stairs. He brushed it aside. It must have been left over from when they refinished the step. But why did they only do the 4th one? He walked into the living room where the staircase was. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to climb the stairs slowly. This time, he didn't hear anything. He stepped off and listened. Still, nothing. Maybe it only happened when he was alone. He started back down. If this was some kind of trick, whoever set it up had done a good job. It was perfect. He heard it again. Donnie stopped on the 3rd stair. When he turned to go back downstairs, he saw the 4th one move. A small gap had opened between the riser and the tread, revealing a dark hole beneath the stair. He knelt down and shined his flashlight inside. It was pitch black. He tried calling out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" No reply. He felt around for something to grab onto something solid, and found a loose floorboard near the bottom of the staircase. Using all his strength, he pried it up. Luke grabbed the edge of the hole and pulled himself up. As he climbed out, he landed face first on a pile of dirt. Coughing, he pushed himself up onto his hands and knees and looked around. He was inside the wall of the staircase, wedged in the tight space between the drywall and the wooden support framing. The air was stale and smelled like mildew. Ahead of him, the tunnel continued, choked with dirt and debris. He crawled through the opening and came out into a small closet on the other side of the staircase. He tried the door. It was locked. He started banging on it. "Let me out," he yelled. But no one answered. He returned to the hole in the stair and squeezed through, falling to his hands and knees. Scrambling to his feet, he wiped the dirt off his clothes. He could hear pounding footsteps above him. He looked up to see the silhouette of a man running across the stairs. Then he heard a voice. "Get out." He looked around wildly for the source of the voice, but saw nothing. He backed away from the staircase, tripping over his own feet. He fell backwards, hitting his head on the floor. Dazed, he looked back at the staircase. A light had appeared at the top, illuminating the figure of a man standing there. The man was tall and gaunt, with a receding hairline and a neatly trimmed gray beard. He wore a suit and a pair of leather shoes. Luke blinked, and the man was gone. He looked back down the hall and saw the closet door had been unlocked. He walked over and opened it. It was empty except for a rocking chair in the corner, which creaked gently back and forth. Back on the stairs, Luke put his hand on the 4th step. He could feel a draft coming from beneath it. As he bent down to look closer, he heard the voice again. "Get out." With trembling hands, he pried the step open. The smell of decay hit him full force. He gagged and stumbled back. Inside, he saw 2 teeth on the floor. The sight made him sick to his stomach. How long had this thing been down here? He put on a pair of gloves and reached inside to pull out the first tooth. It was human. He knew that because he recognized the gold filling in its center. The tooth hadn't been there long, only a few days, maybe a week. Then he felt something else, something wet and squishy. Reaching deeper inside the cavity, he pulled out a second tooth. This one was even fresher. It still had some tissue attached. Blood stained his gloves. He jerked his hand back, staring at the mess in horror. But it wasn't just blood. He looked down at the 4th stair. The wood had been splintered. He ran his finger along the edge. It was sharp enough to cut him. Someone, or something, had clawed its way out of the stair. Luke had just watched the last remains of the creature escape from its prison. Now he had to get out of there before whatever it was managed to crawl its way back in. He sprinted down the stairs, not daring to look back. But he was too late. Once he got outside, he heard heavy footsteps coming down the stairs. He turned to run, but the creature was upon him in an instant. Its fingers dug into his shoulder, knocking him to the ground. He screamed and thrashed wildly, trying to free himself from its grip. The creature leaned close, its hot, fetid breath washing over him. Then it whispered in his ear, "You should have listened." As it dragged him toward the house, he caught a glimpse of its face. Its skin was stretched thin over its bones, its eyes blank and soulless. When the sun finally set, Luke's friends grew worried. He hadn't come home that night, and his phone went straight to voicemail. One of them called the police, who went to his apartment, kicked in the door, and found his phone lying on the ground. They searched the apartment, the yard, and the basement, but there was no sign of Luke. The officers found the front door unlocked and the trail of sawdust on the welcome mat. One of them followed it to the stairs, where they found the fourth step loose. A detective crouched down and shone his flashlight inside the hole. "Anything?" his partner asked. "Looks like someone broke in," the detective replied, "but I don't see any signs of a struggle. And whoever did this, they didn't leave any fingerprints. It's almost like they vanished into thin air." As the officers walked out of the house, the detective noticed one of Luke's gloves lying on the step below the hole. He picked it up and examined it. It was torn and covered in dirt. "Looks like we might have a case of trespassing," the detective said to his partner. "Or maybe we don't." He looked back at the house. Who knows? That's one scary story about the fourth stair. But if you want to hear another, then check out these videos.